in light of a video that I saw by Thorin, who gave a quick primer to games like CS:GO, Dota, League, and Overwatch. I wanted to do something really quick for Melee that people could pass to their friends, who might be interested. Maybe they watch the stream once and they want to get more into the game and more into following the scene. And like I mentioned before, it doesn't mean that you need to know every little detail to enjoy the game. And I think what's cool about Melee is that, for the most part, since everything is on the screen, you can kind of tell what's going on. And once you learn some of the mechanics of the game, then you can really learn like what's impressive about what the players are doing. And the cool thing about Melee is that it's a very mechanically demanding game in many aspects. It rivals the reflexes that are required in like a game like Counter-Strike, or when you look at games like StarCraft or Quake, where it's very mechanically demanding, where you have to have a high APM, do all these movements. Melee has all of that, and I think that's part of the beauty of the game, that even when you watch high level play, people are still making mistakes. And the punish game, still being figured out. Although some people, from the 20XX camp, are optimizing the game. They're trying to figure out what are the routes to lead into kills. Still there's a lot of creativity that can still lead into DI mix-ups, or just new ways to extend combos, or add hits that no other people will really think of. And that's what's really cool about the game, is that it's still not solved and probably won't be. There's enough depth to the game, and because it's mechanically demanding, that we won't see that. Whereas in Marvel 3, once you land a hit, you pretty much know what the sequence is. Do a super here, swap out, do a Doom Infinite here, do a guard break there, zero reset, whatever. Not to rag on the game, I love Marvel, but still Melee, there's still a lot of creativity to it. And if you're watching a stream and you want to know some of the top players to follow, well, here's a short list. Off the top of my head, let's start with Mango. Mango is this guy that plays, really aggressive. He likes to add pressure, and he forces his opponents to make really difficult decisions. His games are fast-paced, and oftentimes he can shake his opponent's composure to make decisions that they do not want to do. He can make his opponents flub. And it's overall really exciting to see him play, because instead of going for the same things over and over again, you'll see a lot of creativity from him. So if you want somebody that's really dynamic to watch, very charismatic. He's quite a character, patriotic, has the whole USA thing, part of Cloud9. He's a very fun guy to follow. Although, some people may think he's a little cocky, a little arrogant. It's part of his persona. Maybe if you're turned off by that, maybe you want someone a little bit more serious, more by the book. There are players like Armada and Leffen. And what you can say about them is that their gameplay is very clean. So once you understand how like their characters in particular work, their Peach, or Armada's Peach, or Leffen's Fox, you really begin to understand like, wow, like Armada's movement is clean, it's very purposeful. Everything you feel from Armada is very intentional. And when you watch him combo, you can tell that he's practiced it like thousands of times. And when he lands a hit, you know that he's going to maximize the punish, and that it's weird when he messes up. And that's a very high compliment to Armada. As I mentioned before, a lot of people mess up even at the highest levels, and it's so rare for Armada to mess up a punish that it's like, oh wow, like what is wrong with Armada if he misses something? Very sweet guy, an ultimate competitor, good sportsmanship. So if you want something like that, Armada's your guy to root for. Leffen, on the other hand, I mentioned that his punish game as Fox is really good. He has crisp movement, but on the flip side, when you look at him from a narrative standpoint, he's the villain of the community. Loves to talk trash. Has done multiple money matches for $1,000 on Mango and SFAT. He likes to stir the pot, but not only does he stir the pot, he backs it up with his game. So he's like a Filipino champ if you're with the FGC. Loves to talk a lot of trash, but can back it up. And some people may think he goes a little bit far, but he's a very interesting personality. If you like the villain, then Leffen's your guy. Some other people to talk about, well, there's Mutaking, and I think his story is very inspirational because, there's a quote from the documentary. I highly recommend you actually watch the episode and watch the documentary. Mutaking's, a lot of people resonate with this guy because he, I'm paraphrasing here. Mutaking's like, well, I demonstrated that a nobody could be the best in the world at something. And I think that's very inspirational to people, and especially to, young people who might be a little bit nerdy. Mutaking, has been, I don't know what the exact spectrum of it is, but has some social, interesting kind of things. Autism and Asperger's, but despite all that, he's grown into his own in the Smash community. It's really exciting to watch him grow. He's kind of like this little bird that grew and flourished in the Smash community, and his Marth is stunning to watch. I highly recommend that you watch any of his matches against a Fox or a Falco as Marth. It feels like Marth is an extension of his hand. I see him use unusual hitboxes. His grab combos are insane. No other Marth combos like Mewtwo King does. Of course, and then lastly, out of the active Big Six members, there's Hungrybox. Plays his character named Jigglypuff. He plays a little bit slower than the other players, willing to stall. But he's like if you're like a fan of the Mayweathers that are willing to use all aspects of the game to find a win, Hungrybox is your man. For a while, he thought, well, hey, I don't think I can win with this character Jigglypuff. I don't think he's good enough. I think Fox, destroys him. But he worked with a coach, and his story is very inspirational. He's gone from, a point where, he was a massive underdog against players like Mango to now he's actually winning most of the sets. And so he's played the villain role pretty well. A lot of people, don't like his play style. He will ledge camp you, bear spam, and do whatever to try to tilt you. But Hungrybox, very mentally strong right now for the most part. I'm not saying every time. And he's willing to do anything he can to put his opponent on tilt. So it's a very, interesting play style to watch. Not everybody's a fan, but if you're into that kind of the mind games warfare, he's your man. Of course, if Fox, Falco, Shake, these usual top tiers aren't your forte, we have exciting low tier mains and mid tier mains. Axe as Pikachu, very exciting to watch, very aggressive, very fast. We have Omsa from Japan who plays a Yoshi like no other in the world. They combo hard. You see, the passion that they carry, and they define Pikachu and Yoshi, and they do so many things that you'll never see from anybody else. Of course, we have rising stars like Plup and SFAT, and the interesting story about Melee is that because it's been competitive for a really long time and there's been no patches, the people at the top tend to stay at the top, but we have these rising stars like SFAT, Plup, Ice, and other people that are rising the ranks. They're starting to take sets off the gods. So you see really this nice story of many players that are trying to get in, but they really can't. But they're getting closer, so we're all wondering at what point do we stop calling the gods or Big Six, and when are these other people going to step into that upper echelon of gameplay? So overall, very exciting, and if you have any questions, or you found this video interesting and you're like, yeah, let me share this with my other friends who are interested in Smash, go ahead and share the video.